Night of July 23rd, 2023, Nilsa was sleeping peacefully at her home, located in the town of in the state of Sao Paulo, in Brazil. What the woman, retired and lonely, did not know was that while she was in the world of dreams, a person in whom she had trusted and had opened the doors of her home for her, the alleged criminal, was stalking her from the darkness of the night. He lingered, waiting for dawn to execute his ruthless plan. This individual, consumed by hate and resentment, would soon be branded by the police as a remorseless psychopath, poised to enact his vengeful scheme. Nilsa Maria Costa Pingochi was 62 years old and had been a widow for 4 years. The woman lived alone in a house located in the Los Angeles neighborhood in the town of Barretos in Brazil. A lonely woman with a lot of money saved, so many years of work, and a big house were the perfect target for 18-year-old Leonardo Silva, who at such a young age was a sinister and uncompassionate being. Silva and Nilsa had known each other since he was just a child. One of her friends in the neighborhood was the boy's mother, so the woman never thought badly of him. He was a boy I had watched grow up. How bad it could do him. So one day Silva showed up at the older woman's door, but this time dressed as a woman and desperately asking for help. According to him, he had been fired from his job and needed one new, urgent, and a place to sleep. Nilsa's good heart did not allow that boy to end up on the street, so she offered him to do the housework and live in the back of the house for a few months. Until he could recover, everything seemed to be going well between the two of them. The boy had a roof to sleep on, a meal on the table every day, and even a monthly payment from Nilsa. He had company on his lonely days. But little by little Silva's attitude began to change. She no longer made an effort to clean the house and was helping less and less by locking herself in her room or disappearing for hours. "I can't stand this ungrateful attitude, which is why you broke the agreement and fired him." Silva was furious. He had lost his previous job because he had actually quit his job to work at Nilsa's house. Now he was penniless and without a place to live. The young man stormed out of the house and began planning to take Nilsa's life. He wanted revenge. I wanted her to pay dearly for his betrayal. The woman continued with her routine as if nothing had happened, not knowing that it would be her last days alive before Silva returned full of resentment and attacked the helpless woman. Days passed, and none of the neighbors heard noises coming from inside Nilsa's house. A neighbor who lived next door last saw the woman a week ago. After that meeting, none of the neighbors saw her leave her house or walk around the neighborhood as she used to. But this does not miss them as much as when on August 1st, they saw a white-skinned boy, tall and thin, acting suspiciously at the door of the property. One of the neighbors approached to question him, and the suspect said that he was the woman's nephew and hurried from the place. The man let him pass at that moment. However, a bad feeling invaded him. Something was wrong with that young man with a strange attitude, so he did not hesitate to call Nilsa's family and tell them about what he saw. Baffled, they said they did not know this alleged relative, Nilsa's daughter and granddaughter. They were alarmed by the presence of this unknown subject in the old woman's house, so they showed up at the city police station together with the neighbors. That's where they filed the missing persons report. Just at that moment, one of the Central Judicial Police investigators was at the scene, so he accompanied the entire neighborhood to Nilsa's residence to check that everything was in order. Everyone feared that the woman had an accident inside her house, or that he had died of natural causes. No one expected the terrible end of their beloved neighbor. Before forcibly entering the property, The authorities rang the doorbell, waiting for some signal that never arrived. At that moment, a neighbor approached with some keys in his hands that Nilsa had given him some time ago for him to use. If there was an emergency, the man never thought that day would come. The neighbor opened the door in the presence of the police, the other residents and relatives in Nilsa. Everyone was with their hearts and throats. Fearing the worst, the house seemed to be completely silent, and there was no sign of the older woman anywhere. Walking through the property to the backyard, a police officer was surprised by the removed earth and a lump that hovered under the mound as he approached and shook up the fresh earth a little. He was met with a sinister image. The missing woman's body was buried in a makeshift grave. Immediately, they called the hyperbolic forensics and removed the neighbors and family from the horrific scene. Investigation teams went to the scene to collect information in the raid. The civil police opened an investigation into the crime of robbery, since the cell phone, wallet, and some personal objects and the victim were not found. The authorities believed that this was the crime of robbery resulting in deprivation of life. They hypothesized that Nilsa may have defended herself from her attacker, which resulted in her death. This is how they searched the cameras in the area to find the criminal. Thanks to the recordings of the victim's house, the suspect was identified, and it was none other than Leonardo Silva, the boy who had been hanging around the house days before. The police quickly got to work, fearing that the young man would flee the country. So on August 3rd, 2 days after Nilsa's body was found, the agents located it at a gas station in Frutal, a municipality more than 1 hour from the crime scene. During the journey on the police patrol to the Frutal police station, the detainee acted mockingly, sending kisses out the window and smiling while they took him out of the vehicle. Even dancing in front of the police station building, Leonardo was transferred to Barretos, where he was interrogated and confessed the crime to the police officer responsible for the case, Rafael Faria Domingos. The criminal mocked him, even mocked him for breaking up with Elsa, and showed no remorse or remorse. He was then removed from the police station to be transferred to the Colina public prison at the exit of the police station. A horde of journalists rebuked him with questions, to which the young murderer replied, "I murdered her." Then he claimed to have acted out of revenge and said a little revenge and also fun, and added that he didn't regret even a little bit. "I'm going to murder and regret what? What a criminal this is to murder and then repent. I used the money, went shopping. It was worth it." Silva even smiled and also blew a kiss to the cameras. As if he were a movie star, no one watching the morning news could believe the boy's cynicism. He spoke with a disturbing calmness, worthy of a professional killer without emotions. The widow's body was transferred to the morgue, where forensic examinations began to decipher the cause of her death. According to the coroner, the advanced state of decomposition of the body could make the result difficult. Because he was buried in a wet area and underground, which complicated things, the police had the suspicion that his life ended due to asphyxiation, and that the attack could have occurred while Nilsa was sleeping, and that after his aggression, the subject took away his cell phone and wallet with his bank cards. At his arrest, Silva calmly recounted the events that were worse than they had imagined. According to his confession, Silva returned to Barretos on July 22nd and searched the victim's residence and left. He then returned on 23rd of July, but did not enter the house from the front, but climbed over the wall, hid in the back room, and waited in the darkness of the night for the victim to wake up the next morning, when Nilsa woke up on the morning of the 24th. And she was taken by surprise from behind. Silva hung her with the cord of a lawnmower with tremendous force. When he felt the woman stop fighting, he released her and put the body in a box. As he began to dig a hole in the backyard to hide his crime. Silva left her in that trunk and remained in the house for a few days, enjoying the woman's comforts, eating her food, sleeping in her bed. Meanwhile, the body of whoever had helped him in his worst moment, whether lifeless, lost inside a piece of furniture, even the clean young criminal, anything to eliminate all evidence against him. Days later, he finally buried her. The images from the home security cameras showed Silva walking through the patio with the trunk where Nilsa was. Silva was arrested in the Colina public prison with preventive detention until the day of the trial. And without a lawyer, because Nilsa's family did not request it. They did not want to talk about the matter in the media, but asked that justice not feel compassion for the age of the young criminal who deserved life for what he did. The trial against Leonardo began on December 15, 2023. Prosecutor Wilson Rogero de Souza maintained that Leonardo committed a very serious and atrocious crime, who acted with coldness and cruelty, causing the end of Nilsa with the purpose of keeping her assets. During the reconstruction of the crime, the Baguetos police confirmed the date of the alleged robbery on July 24th. Furthermore, after causing the death of the victim, the accused went to commercial establishments without any feeling of guilt or resentment for what he had done. And after her macabre act against her boss and friend, Silva bought a new motorcycle, brand clothes appliances, which she gave as a gift to her mother, who was a friend of Nilsa, and even made financial transactions from the woman's cell phone. In addition, he rented an apartment with the victim's money, demonstrating coldness and maladaptive personality. According to the police, the young man's greatest motivation was financial. Leonardo's defense reported that the accused did not agree with the accusations and that he was going to prove his innocence during the trial because, according to them, there was not enough evidence to convict him. For justice, Silva was a dangerous young man who could not be released until he was arrested. The police discovered that he looked for 4 acquaintances and offered them 20,000 reais in total, about $4,000. Money that also belonged to Nilsa to help him get rid of the body. The offer, however, was rejected by the group, and Leonardo allegedly used a gun to threaten them not to say anything about their crime for fear of ending up like Nilsa. After his threat, he fled to Frutal, where he ended up being located by the police. Thanks to these testimonies, the authorities believed that if he was released, witnesses' lives could be in danger. They were sure Silva would be able to get rid of them if necessary. In the interrogation, the subject showed extreme coldness, no kind of regret. The accused even stated that he had an intimate relationship with Nilsa in January 2023. This confession did not seem credible to the authorities, who ordered the review of the telephone information of 2 mobile phones belonging to the accused and the victim to find out whether or not there was a love relationship between the two. At the moment, this still has no answer. For experts, the young criminal has the profile of a psychopath. He didn't seem to care about the consequences of what he did and planned the crime over time, without stopping even for 1 second to reconsider his actions. According to the investigator, Silva presented himself to Nilsa as a woman, and she would have welcomed him to live in her residence. But at the time of his arrest, he presented himself as a man, so justice believed that everything was part of his plan, and there was the possibility that the crime had been premeditated from the first moment he set foot in that house before even. The woman fired him. The accused's lawyers presented a report of mental insanity that was signed by forensic psychiatrist Judy Lobo Ribeiro and a team of psychologists who were hired by Silva's defense. Lawyer Luis Gustavo Vicente Pena, who defended the criminal, explained that he resorted to a team of experts to try to demonstrate that the accused was not in full mental capacity when he ended Nilsa's life. The report of the team hired by the defense indicated that the accused had schizoid personality disorder with emotional instability, impulsive behavior, other mental and behavioral disorders due to the use of multiple drugs and the use of other psychoactive substances. In addition to these three disorders, the team that evaluated Leonardo also included in the medical report the diagnosis of two other clinical conditions, bipolar disorder and histrionic personality disorder. However, these disorders, which were recognized among the young man's symptoms, did not meet the criteria to be presented to the court. According to the criminal's mother, her son suffered from serious mental disorders and needed mental and physical health care and treatment, but that whatever had caused him had never been adequately treated. To be someone dangerous to society. According to Silva's mental analysis, he presented serious psychopathic diagnoses that directly impacted his quality of life, especially due to his chemical dependence on drugs, which had not been treated, which had caused his outburst and desire for revenge, without measuring the consequences not only of the victim, but of himself. The medical team analyzed Silva's physical and mental health history as a child, adolescence, and adulthood, and pointed out the need for Silva to undergo intensive medical and psychological treatments, because the absence of these could lead him to important risks, such as taking his own life and possible serious attacks on other people. The request for the report did not come from justice, but from the defense of the accused. The objective of the lawyers was that the document should contribute to the analysis of the judicial process, and thus avoid a harsh sentence for your client. But the court has not yet decided whether or not to accept the medical report. If the report is accepted, the case with the charge of robbery followed by deprivation of life could be suspended, and an official expert other than the one hired by the defense could be requested to conduct new psychological examinations and thus reassess Silva Apos' behavior. Only after that would an eventual conviction come that could save him from prison. Leonardo Silva is currently in preventive detention and must remain locked up throughout the trial. If the judicial expert reaches the same conclusion as the expert appointed by the defense, the accused may be sent to a psychiatric hospital. Otherwise, the case could be tried again and end up being considered guilty of the crime of Nilsa, the victim's family, friends, and neighbors. They fear that their greatest fear will come true, that Silva's defense will achieve its mission alleging dementia, which could mean that the criminal's punishment will be light. The worst that could happen is that Silva will be released at some point, especially given his age. Being a young man of only 18 years old, the jury could contemplate the possibility that in the future he could be reintegrated into society for good behavior and improve his alleged poor mental health. There is one thing that is clear, and that is that Leonardo is a being who acts in awareness of his actions. His brazen and mocking statements in front of the media demonstrated that he is a person bordering on psychopaths, and that he would act in the same way again if he were released. Let's just hope justice notices this and keeps him locked up for the good of the community.